Welcome to today's edition of the Statler Financial Radio Show. Your financial security is our business. Have a question for the team? Call today, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Danielle J. Martin, along with Phillip Statler, the president and founder of Statler Financial Services. We've got a great show for you lined up today. Phillip, welcome. We're talking today about your financial habits to break right now. So any time is really a good time to break a bad habit, but whether you want to make improvements in your routine at home, your job performance at work, or with your physical health, or let's say financial health, the time to make a positive change for your future is right now. And Phillip, I want to share this stat with you that says about only 33% of Americans have a written financial plan. That means most of us are just winging it when it comes to spending. So Phillip, how could we break this bad habit of living without a budget?
Well, Danielle, you're right. I mean, we know that a lot of folks out there do not have any kind of written plan, whether it's a financial plan, a retirement plan, a budget even. They just don't have those things in place. I think when we look at it, you're talking specifically about budgeting. Budgeting is tough. I mean, people, because what it's doing is it's saying, I'm going to live within this constraint. And so when we do that to ourselves, then we are saying we can't do more than this. We can't spend more than this on this or this on that. And so I think that just in itself makes us want to not do it. And then the second thing that really hurts a lot of times is if people spend more than what they have coming in, they don't like to see that number at the end, right? They don't want to see, oh man, I'm going to be in the red this month, or I'm going to be in the red this quarter. And I think that's problematic in the way they do it. And so I would encourage folks to do it this way. Set up ranges. Right? Let's have a range. My utilities are going to be, 10 to 12%, or this is going to fit within this range. That way, we've got a high and a low number that we're kind of looking at there when we look at that. But the first step is just to start, right? Just to start. And now there's so many apps out there, Danielle, that can help you with the process.
That's right.
They can get the information for you from your credit card. They can get the information from your bank account. You can sweep it all in there, and you have very little to do other than categorize stuff. I mean, back in the day when I was trying to do budgets and stuff, you had to handwrite everything, put it in an Excel spreadsheet, and it took a lot of work. Today, there's easy ways to do it today. So there's things that people could do that will make the process a lot easier.
Phillip, you're so right. There's so many resources and tools surrounded by us, and there's so many opportunities. Like you mentioned, doing that Excel sheet, I'm sure took so much time. And then now we have access, easy access. You can just log in your numbers into your phone. But I love this topic, Phillip, because they always say it takes about 90 days to break a habit, right? And so a complacency is another bad habit that many of us have. We don't make regular adjustments to our portfolio. We don't pay attention to the fees that we're paying. And we just really keep our money with some financial institutions just because we don't want to take the time to explore other options. And so this is why you're here. And I want to ask you, Phillip, how does working with someone like you keep us from becoming too complacent with our retirement savings?
Well, I think at least specifically for us, we are very proactive in meeting with our clients. We want to make sure that at a minimum, we sit down once a year and review everything they've got going on. We'll look at their 401k, we'll look at their investments we handle, we'll look at other investments they may have that have to be at a certain place. And so we want to look at the whole picture, because the way we look at things, we are really your quarterback. And if we don't know all the different pieces that are out there, then we can't give you the best advice out there on any pieces if we don't know everything. And so that becomes the challenge is to get that balance sheet put together, and then tweaking things. We are always out there looking at investments, what's out there, what's available for our clients, based on their current circumstances and what they're trying to accomplish. Where do they need to be? What portfolio do they need to be in? And it's not unusual for us to get partway through a year and something changes, right? Their outlook changes or their perspective changes. And so we have to change the whole portfolio into a different portfolio to match up more with their risk tolerance and those type of things and just how they're feeling from a market outlook perspective. And so we are going to do that at a minimum once a year. And sometimes twice a year, depending upon what's happening in the whole political realm.
Phillip, I love how you and your team are very familiar with this process. And so I'm sure you know that there are certain things that we tend to overlook. There's certain impacts that happens to our retirement plan that we sometimes don't see. And so when we're talking about impact, talk about how much of an impact could fees have on our retirement?
Well, fees really do matter, right? They do come into play when we're talking about performance. Historically, I know that Vanguard, they keep track of numbers all the time. And they say, look, between 1926 and 2019, if you had an 80% stock and a 20% bond portfolio, then you would expect a return of about 9.7%, an average return. There was years it was down 40, and there was years it was up extremely high. So that's the average over that time period. Not quite 100 years yet. And so what does that really mean to your money? Well, it means if you had, and hang with me here, folks, if you had started investing $1,000 a month, now that's a lot 40 years ago, right? It's a lot today. But if you had started investing $1,000 a month 40 years ago, your portfolio would grow to about $5.8 million. And that's a lot. But hang on now, if you look about fees, if you forget about the fees altogether, then that you're focusing on a 1% fee, then that rate of return drops to 8.7%. And now instead of that 5.8 million, you have 4.3 million. So that tiny 1% fee costs you $1.5 million. And so that's 25% of the wealth on that. Now, let's face it, not everybody's going to put $1,000 a month in over that time period. But it goes to the fact that that's what fees can do. So you want to make sure that you're getting value for whatever fees you're paying. And that's the key, right? So listen, folks, that's why I developed the core retirement design, because we break that down for you. We break down the risk in a portfolio. We break down the fees within a portfolio. We look at the tax aspects of portfolios and what that could mean to you long term. And lastly, we put together that written retirement income plan for you. That's the crux of going forward, right? That's the roadmap for your retirement that you always dreamed of. To get started, give us a call today, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. Give us a call today.
There's no cost or obligation to talk with Phillip and his team, so do not hesitate to call that number at 863-877-1188. Again, that number is 863-877-1188. Phillip, as we're talking about breaking bad habits, leaving tax breaks on the table, that's another bad habit to break. So how can having a tax-efficient retirement strategy help keep you on track to keep more money for your own use on retirement?
Well, Danielle, I think that's where having a financial professional that is knowledgeable in the area of taxation and understands the impact it can have on your taxes is just so important. It truly makes a difference, especially right now. We have this kind of 2-year window this year and next year before taxes automatically go up. And so we've got this window to take advantage of. And I have clients that are calling me, hey, look, how much can I do? How much kind of Roth conversion can I do this year? And how much can I do next year to get money moved from taxable to tax-free? And that's just part of our whole practice is looking at that because that's one of our core philosophies is that we want to pay the least amount of taxes possible throughout our retirement lifetime. And let's face it, retirement could be 20, 30, for some people, 35 years. So that's a long time, Danielle.
That's right, Phillip. And I know many of us really don't want to be complacent, like especially when it comes to taxes either. Many of us does not want to be complacent. So, and a lot of people, we don't really realize that there's a short window of opportunity to implement these strategies when it comes to saving on taxes. And so, Phillip, what can we do to help keep taxes from taking too much of a bite out of our retirement savings?
Well, I think it's a matter of planning. Right. It's having that plan. I mean, we become complacent because we don't have a plan in place and we don't review that a plan on a regular basis to make sure that we're tracking and following the plan that we need to be, because a plan requires tweaking. It's not a set it and forget it. If you don't sit down with an advisor, at least once a year and look at that plan to make sure you're on track and changing the things you need to be changing, then before you know it, I mean, I know you've heard the story, right? If you had an airplane that was going from LA to New York and it's off by just 1/10 of a degree, it's not going to get anywhere close to New York. And it's the same with your financial plan and your retirement plan. If you're off by just a little bit a couple of years in, then that can be problematic when you get ready to retire. And so we want to make sure that you are on track by making sure we have that written retirement game plan.
Phillip, when we talk about habits, a lot of us can fall into the habit of lifestyle creep. Now, this is where we let our expenses and lifestyle expand as we earn more money over time. Lifestyle creep is the habit. And so how can we rein our expenses back in to make sure that we don't fall into the cracks?
I think one way to do that is to, number one, and I try to do this at the beginning of every year, look back at the year and say, okay, what subscriptions do I have? What expenses have I incurred this last year that happened automatically, that just hit my bank account or hit my credit card? And I try to go through and say, okay, am I using those? Is that of benefit to me? Is it something I still need to have? If not, we're going to cancel. And then if we decide we need them later, we'll add them back. But that can be a huge deal when we're talking about lifestyle creep, because those subscriptions, Danielle, they add up in a hurry.
That's right.
And they get you real quick. So that's an area that I think is easy if we just spend a little time and focus on it.
That's right, Phillip. What is the best way that we can contact you?
Danielle, the best way is to give us a call at 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis. It's simple, folks. It's a half-hour call with you and I together to determine if you are on the right path to the retirement you always dreamed of. It's a half hour, easy to do. We'll make sure that you're doing the things you need to be doing. And if not, we'll let you know and see how we may be able to help you fill in those gaps. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
If you have any questions about retirement, don't hesitate to call Phillip and the team at Statler Financial Services. They're here to guide you through a successful retirement. Again, that number is 863-877-1188. Again, 863-877-1188. The Statler Financial Radio Show continues right after this.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Phillip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Phillip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Phillip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Gone are the days when retirees could rely heavily on substantial external support, like Social Security and robust corporate pension plans. Today, not only are pensions of fading memory, but the reliability of Social Security and benefits is also increasingly uncertain, placing the burden of securing a financially stable retirement more firmly on individuals. So, Phillip, as a financial advisor, what do you feel are some of the greatest risks that threaten financial security during retirement?
Well, I think there's a handful that we see on a regular basis that are concerned to most everybody out there. Let's start with we're living a lot longer, right? So we've got this increase in life expectancy that so many more people are reaching that, age 100. So that's a big deal. Making sure that we don't outlive our money. And part of that is we're living so much longer that becomes a concern going into the planning process. And so I say that's one of the biggest ones is life expectancy and not making sure you don't outlive your money. The second one is market volatility. People are really concerned about the ups and downs of the market, the risk that's there. And that's why, we developed our core retirement design to help, offset some of those issues that people find when it comes to market volatility. And that can be a problem the closer you get to retirement. And then, obviously, we've had this issue, inflation, for the last couple of years. Inflation is really eating away at people's savings, at the money they're getting. Expenses continue to rise. And not only inflation going up, but we know that at the end of 2025, going into 2026, that we are going to be seeing higher taxes unless Congress does something, which lately they haven't been able to do anything. So I don't think that's going to change. I think we're going to automatically revert back to the old tax rules that we had prior to the Trump tax code changes. And so we know the taxes are going to go up. We need to plan for that, and we need to build a plan that helps offset some of those rising taxes. And lastly, rising healthcare costs. Healthcare costs have continually risen even higher than inflation. And so that's a big problem when it comes to retiring, because we know that as we retire, our healthcare costs are going to go up. I mean, it's just, the older we are, the more we need the doctors. And so we automatically will see some increases there, Danielle.
Phillip, you've definitely outlined several significant challenges that today's retirees face. You mentioned plenty: increased life expectancy, market volatility, inflation, rising taxes. I mean, the list goes on. So, Phillip, in your experience, what issue do you find most retirees struggling with the most, especially when it comes to planning for their financial security?
Well, let's look at a couple statistics here. On average, men who reach age 65 can expect to live statistically until age 84, while women can expect to live to age 87. Now that's a long time. And I know on my side of the family, I've got some really long genes. And my grandmother was 100. I have a grandfather who lived to 90. My dad right now is 87. So, my family seems to outlive these statistics. So it's really concerning to me that we continue to live longer. Well, if we live longer, that increases the impact of all the other risks that we have, like inflation, taxes, and market volatility, as well as healthcare, because those things are stacked, right? If inflation goes up one year, well, that affects the next year because usually inflation is going to go up another year. We don't really see deflation bringing prices back down. Same thing for taxes. Taxes go up. Well, now we got to pay a bigger chunk. Well, that takes money out more than we expected. And so now that starts to deplete our money supply even quicker. And so those are some things that we really need to take a look at. And then the one thing I don't think people really think about enough is a surviving spouse. If somebody passes away, a husband passes away, now the surviving spouse can really be hit hard. They lose income and their tax rates go up typically because they're now single instead of married filing jointly. And so that's a big problem that we see with folks in retirement. And then children, they're having to care for aging parents, and that can be a problem within itself. Folks, all these things that we're talking about today, we look at and cover in our core retirement design, where we'll help you design the retirement you always dreamed of. It's simple. We look at market risk. We look at volatility. We look at income planning and make sure that you have an income plan that's going to last as long as you need it to. And then taxes. We want to make sure folks are paying the least amount of taxes possible. And that's all within our core retirement design. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis. It's a 30-minute phone call. You and I will discuss where you are, what path you're on, what maybe you need to do differently. Maybe you're doing everything great. You just need some reassurance. Again, call us at 863-877-1188.
There's no cost or obligation to speak with Phillip and his team. It's simple. There's no cost. There's no obligation. We just encourage you to not plan for retirement alone. Again, call that number 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. Phillip, as we continue this conversation about our topic, making your retirement money last as long as you live, what steps can our listeners today take to help ensure that their retirement savings provides the income needed throughout their retirement years?
Well, I think a couple of things. One is we need to create a diversified income stream. We can't rely on one source of income. I mean, we know we're going to have Social Security. A lot of folks now don't have a pension, so they're going to have to create their own pension. And then they've got their investments. And so we need to make sure that we've got a diversified income stream, that we're not just counting on Social Security. We're not just counting on a pension, that we've got that three-legged stool taken care of. And then we need to make sure that we've got sufficient amount of reliable income just to meet our basic expenses. And so we need to make sure we've got that under wraps and ready to go. And then the last thing, we need to make sure we have a written retirement income plan. And we've talked about this a lot on our show. And that's part of our core retirement design. The third leg of that is making sure we have a written retirement income plan where you know where your income is going to come from year in and year out. And it's vitally important that we don't use overarching returns, right? We want to use something that's ultra conservative. Because if that works ultra conservative, we know if markets do better or our income's better, that we'll just be in a better spot down the road. But those are the three things that we really, really need to make sure that we have covered when we head into retirement.
Phillip, a lot of people have questions about this. So with financial security being a top priority, tailored especially to what seems to be indispensable. So can you do something like a personalized retirement income plan for us? So then that way people can kind of have an idea of the overall picture.
So when we put together an income plan, I use a bucket approach, right? We're going to put your money in several buckets, usually 4, sometimes 6 buckets of money, depending upon your current circumstances, because everybody is different. But we want to put those together and make sure that we know where that money is going to come from the first 5 to 7 years you're retired. Where are we getting that money? And then where do we go from there? And at the end, if I live to 100, do I still have some money left? We want to make sure that our growth bucket is keeping up with inflation. It's there to meet emergency things. And so we develop that into our whole system to know, hey, look, here's your retirement income plan. Here's what it looks like. Here's where your money's coming from. And here's what we anticipate that you should have each year. At the end of the time, hey, look, we get down to age 90. Here's how much money you should have left. And maybe at that age, you need more than what we anticipated because of inflation. Hey, now you've got it to work through. And so that's just an area that we have put together in our core retirement design is that income plan, because it's just so important, Danielle.
And really quick, Phillip, many of our listeners are curious about the timing of retirement planning. So from your professional standpoint, when is the ideal time or age to begin preparing for retirement?
I'm going to say the ideal would be about 5 years before you get ready to retire. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't start a year before or right when you retire. It's the ideal would be 5. But if if you've already retired, I'm going to say it's not too late. We can still put together a plan based on your current circumstances and your current portfolios to put together that income plan so that you know where your money is going to come from, month in, month out, year over year. That's important. And again, that's why I developed my core retirement design to help you design that retirement you always dreamed of. And it's a 30-minute phone call where you and I are going to talk candidly about where you are, where you should be, where you need to be, and how are you going to get there. It's 30 minutes. My gift to you. Give me a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis, where we'll look at market volatility and how much risk you have in your portfolio. We'll look at the taxes you're paying now, and are there ways and things that we can do to limit your taxes over your retirement lifetime. And lastly, that all-important written retirement income plan, all part of our core retirement design. Again, give us a call at 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
We always like to remind our listeners that there's no cost or obligation to speak with Phillip and his team at Statler Financial Services. It's simple, like he mentioned. There's no cost, no obligation. All you have to simply do is call 863-877-1188. Again, that's 863-877-1188. Well, coming up next, we're going to dive into essential strategies to navigate the challenges of inflation, escalating healthcare costs, and taxes in retirement. That's right. We're going to dive into all of that coming up next right here on the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Phillip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Phillip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Phillip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
I want to help you understand some things. Number one, timing of your RMD, because they could potentially push you into a higher tax bracket. Imagine how fast your savings could shrink if you rack up penalties along with taking regular withdrawals and paying taxes.
Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Welcome back into the show right here, the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm your host, Danielle J. Martin, alongside Phillip Statler. He's the founder and president of Statler Financial Services. We're continuing the conversation about making your retirement money last as long as you. Because as we enter retirement and the subsequent stages of life, the financial landscape becomes increasingly complex, marked by, of course, rising inflation, stock market risk, and shifting tax obligations. There's so much. So Phillip is here to walk us through. So Phillip, let's explore how retirees can actually best manage these financial pressures. Let's begin with the challenge of stock market volatility.
Well, and that can be a challenge, right? Because we don't ever know which direction the market's going to go. We can have a couple good days, we can have a couple good weeks, a couple good months, and then all of a sudden things drop off. And so I think it's important that people understand that when we look at things, yes, you need some market exposure. But the problem is how much do you need? And that becomes the $1 million question is what do we need? Because we need to look at your age, how close you are to retirement or how far are you into retirement, and making sure that we use appropriate applications for the investing process. And then we want to make sure that we're looking at the rule of 100. Now, what's that mean? Well, the rule of 100 simply states that, let's say you're 65 years old. It says we should have 65% of our portfolio safe and secure. 35% should be at risk. Now, what does that mean, safe and secure? Well, the definition should be into something where you cannot lose money. Because if we lose money, now we've got to make more to bring it back. So it's a case of making sure that we're in that area where we have some of our money where we cannot lose it. And then we can take risk with some of our other money to help catch up and beat inflation over time. These are two areas that we need to make sure that we're focusing on as we build our retirement plan.
You know, Phillip, another significant concern for retirees is that future tax rates could escalate. You kind of mentioned this earlier in the show, and that really affects a lot of retirees who have based their planning on current tax rates. So, Phillip, how can retirees safeguard their finances against the possibility of rising taxes?
Danielle, rising taxes are a huge possibility. I would say if I was giving it a statistical chance, I'd put it up there about 95% chance that we're going to see increased taxes, if not 99% chance, right? Because of a lot of things. One of them is our growing national debt. It is astronomical how much debt we have taken on in the last 4 or 5 years. And so somebody's got to pay that debt. Somebody's got to service the interest. We've got to make the interest payment. Even if we don't pay the debt down, we got to pay the interest rates. And interest rates have gone up substantially over the last 2 years, 3 years. And so how do we pay it? Well, we've got to raise taxes in order to pay that. So then the other thing we look at is we've got expiring tax cut legislation. Again, that would be the Trump tax code cuts, we call them. And that is going to happen at the end of 2025. So December 31st of 2025, our existing tax code reverts back to what it was before, starting January 1st of 2026, which means we are all going to see a tax increase on January 1st of 2026, unless something changes, and I wouldn't hold my breath. So we've got that issue we got to deal with. We need to be able to diversify where we pull our income from. We need to tax diversify our portfolios because most folks, when they retire, the majority of their money is in their 401k, their IRAs, which is all going to be taxable when they pull it out. And that can be a problem because a lot of folks out there have saved and have done a great job. But now, all of a sudden, at 73, you got to start pulling money out whether you want to or not because Uncle Sam wants to collect that tax revenue. So we'll look at things like Roth conversions. How can we maximize your current tax bracket? And it may be minimal things that we're able to do, but every little thing that we can move from a taxable account to a tax-free account is going to save you down the road. And that is part of our core retirement design process, to walk you through that and make sure that we take care of taxes and try to get them as low as possible.
There's also the pressure challenge of inflation, Phillip, right? We talked about taxes, but now we're moving on into inflation. So as the cost of living steadily climbs, retirees may find their budgets becoming increasingly tight, causing their savings to deplete more even quickly than anticipated. So I'm curious, how can retirees now adjust their financial plans when it comes to coping with inflation and maintaining their standard of living throughout retirement?
Yeah, that's right. Because a lot of folks that are retired now, well, let's face it, they put those plans together prior to 2021. And back then, man, we didn't have much inflation. I mean, if we had a 2% inflation rate, 2.5%, that was high. And so everybody built their plan based on no inflation, or very little inflation, I should say. And so now we have to revisit that. What do we need to tweak? What do we need to change to make sure that we don't run out of money as the folks need to withdraw more to keep up with this inflation that we're battling right now? And then on top of that, if inflation wasn't enough, inflation when it comes to healthcare costs is even higher than typical inflation. And so that's another issue. And here's one that I think not enough people really pay attention to, and that's making sure you optimize your Social Security. Mm-hmm. Again, too many people, I believe, take Social Security at 62 because they're afraid it's going to run out. It's convenient. They don't really need the money. They just want to take it. Folks, you need to make sure that you're running the analysis to get to the best possible situation you can when it comes to Social Security. Again, that's one of the things we look at in our core retirement design. Give us the call, 863-877-1188, to schedule your core retirement analysis, where we'll help you make sure that you're on the path to the retirement you always dreamed of. It's simple, as easy as a 30-minute phone call. That number to call is 863-877-1188.
That's right, Phillip. And let's also leave our listeners with, what guidance could you offer to individuals who are potentially worried about outliving their savings? As we're talking about this whole thing about, outliving your money, how can we also not outlive our savings?
Well, I think it comes down to this, Danielle, is that we have to have a plan. And that plan has to be written so that you can pick it up and look at it and make sure that you are on target, to make sure we're running the way we need to be running. And so that's a big part of our core retirement design, is making sure we have that written retirement income plan where people know where their income is going to come from. We also need to look at how much are they spending, because that's a big deal, right? If we're overspending, then that's going to really reduce our portfolio, which means we may come up short at the end. I've had to have some difficult conversations with folks that says, hey, look, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to run out of money. And that's difficult sometimes, but that's what we're here for. We're here to help coach people into and through retirement. Again, that's why I developed the core retirement design. That core retirement design looks at 3 key components of retirement. It looks at risk. How much risk are you taking? Because what I have found is about 60% of the folks out there have too much risk in their portfolio when they go into retirement. There's about another 10 to 20% that have not enough risk in their portfolio. And there's another 20% they hit it right. Here's what I will say, though. Don't think you're the one that got it right until you run an analysis to make sure, because that could be a dangerous bombshell if you get it wrong. That's number one. Number 2 is taxes. We want to make sure that folks in retirement are paying the least amount of taxes over their lifetime and hopefully over their beneficiary's lifetime. And so we'll run several analyses to make sure that we put together a plan where they can start taking advantage of their current tax brackets. And lastly is going to be our written retirement income plan, making sure that the income you get meets what you need and that we're still growing our portfolio so there's something left at the end, because we never know how long we're going to live. Give me a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
You do not want to miss this opportunity to speak with Phillip and his team. They will walk you through every step of your retirement plan. There's no cost, there's no obligation. It's simple, it's free, it's complimentary. Take this opportunity. Call Phillip and his team at 863-877-1188. You want to find out how you cannot outlive your savings, so simply give that number a call, 863-877-1188. We're just getting started here on the Statler Financial Radio Show. You want to stay with us. We have more coming up right after this. We'll be right back.
Do you have a retirement plan but would like a second opinion? Call Phillip Statler today, 863-285-3815. Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Phillip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Phillip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Phillip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit statlerfinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Thanks for joining us back here on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm your host, Danielle J. Martin, along with Phillip Statler, the president and founder of Statler Financial Services. We're diving into our Statler Financial Radio Show mailbag. Phillip, this is where we get questions each and every week about all things retirement. So I'm excited to go over some of the common retirement questions. It's our favorite part of the show. Are you ready?
I'm ready to see what's in the bag today.
Okay, let's see. Our first question comes from Jane from Lake Passett. She says, I've been worried about the markets and if we'll continue to see more volatility ahead. I don't want to take any more big losses. How long should I be in cash before I try to get back into the markets?
Oh, man.
Wow.
Jane, I am sorry that you're still sitting in cash these days. That can be dangerous, and people see that all the time, right? We can't time the market. Nobody knows where the market's going to be a year from now. And obviously this year, we have a lot of stuff going on, right? And we've got elections. We're still dealing with inflation. We still have interest rate issues. So it's hard to say when is a good time to get back in the market because we don't know when the next dip is going to come or when the next bear market is going to hit and it goes back down. So I would say that really and truly in this circumstance, you need to have a well-balanced portfolio. You need to look and see what your risk number is, and then have a portfolio that's designed around that risk number. And then you just start putting some money in. Don't necessarily put it all in at one time, but put 20, 30% of it into that portfolio that matches up with your risk tolerance, and then build it from there is what I would say is a starting point.
Really good insights, Phillip. I appreciate that. And Jane, thank you so much for your question. Okay, let's get to our next person. Nancy is from Sebring, and she says, I've worked at a hospital here for almost 18 years. I was planning to work a full 20 years before I retired, but now that I'm thinking about retiring early than planned, before I give my notice, how do I make sure that I'm ready to retire? Great question, Nancy.
That is a great question, Nancy, because that's good that you decided to ask the question before you pull the trigger and actually retire, right? So,
Yeah.
so Nancy, what I would do is say, look, you need to have a plan to make sure that between Social Security and if you have a pension or if you have a 403b or 401k, that all of that is going to be able to put together that income plan that's going to allow you to retire and enjoy it. Retiring 2 years early may not be an issue, but you don't know that unless you walk through the planning process. So if you start now and put together the plan, then you can see what that 2 years, 3 years difference might make for you. So you just need to start the plan. And that would be what I would do and recommend for you, Nancy.
Awesome.
Those, all these questions are good questions, but it all still boils down to planning, Danielle. And again, that's why I developed the core retirement design, is to help people plan out and design that retirement they always dreamed of. Easy to do. We'll make sure that you're doing the things you need to be doing. And if not, we'll let you know and see how we may be able to help you fill in those gaps. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
There's no cost or obligation to talk with Phillip and his team, so do not hesitate to call that number at 863-877-1188. Again, that number is 863-877-1188. Okay, Phillip, let's move on to our next question. Let's see what's in the mailbag next. We got one from Scott from Avon Park. He says, a couple of friends I work with retiring at age 62 and claiming their Social Security benefits. I thought I had to wait until 70 to take Social Security. That's his question. He thought he had to wait until 70. Phillip, what's your response there?
So nobody has to wait until 70 to take their Social Security. You get the highest amount if you wait till 70 to take your Social Security. But that may not make sense for you. It depends on a lot of factors, Scott. I mean, I look at how old are you? What's your life expectancy? What's the life expectancy of your family? Those are areas that we look at when we start planning for Social Security. So you can take it at 62. However, those folks taking it at 62, they're taking a big haircut. They're taking a big deduction because they're taking it so early. The normal retirement age for most of us out here today is going to be 67. And so at 67, you get what they call your full retirement age, and then you get the full retirement amount. If you take it before that, you get a discount. If you take it after that, they actually give you more. And so that's why when we developed our core retirement design, one of the components is the income plan. And that income planning process, we look at Social Security and look at different scenarios to determine what might work best for you when it comes to deciding when to take Social Security. And so, again, it comes to planning and understanding. And I'll tell you that the folks at Social Security, they're not going to tell you when to take it. That's on you to do that planning and that research to determine what's the best for you, Scott.
That's right, Scott. We appreciate your question. Okay, Phillip, let's see who's next. We have one from Bill from Sebring. He says that we were not planning to retire for several more years, but we've had some health issues come up, and now my wife isn't healthy enough to work. So I'm thinking I should stop working to help take care of her. So can you help us evaluate if this is a wise thing to do for our situation?
Well, Bill, I'm not sure exactly how to answer this one because you have to kind of understand long-term care and how that can really impact your finances and your financial decisions. So it really, you didn't say how old you were, so that's a little hard to determine what benefits might be available from that standpoint. So I think that in this case, it's going to depend on a lot of things, Bill. One is going to depend on how old you guys are and where you are in terms of Social Security. The other thing that's going to really make a difference is what do we have saved in our retirement accounts and in our other accounts to determine that. And then, if your wife can't work, then the issue is what is the life expectancy that we can have there. And are we going to have higher medical costs? Are we going to have long-term care issues that we have to deal with? And all these things, though complicated in some ways, can be planned for. I think we look back to the whole process that we need to have a plan in place. And everything starts from there. I mean, for us, when it comes to long-term care issues, we have a team that we have in place to help walk folks through that planning process. And that's how we help our clients manage the long-term care impacts that happen in their life. And so I hope, Bill, that answers your question. It's a little difficult without a little bit more information, but hopefully that helps you get in the right direction.
That's right, Bill. We definitely appreciate your question here. And Phillip, it sounds like this is a situation where we highly recommend that you call Phillip and his team so he can look at your overall plan to see what's best for you. We definitely appreciate your question, Bill. Okay, Phillip, we have time for one more question from Janice from Wauchula. She says that one of our daughters had to move back in with us this year, so we've been supporting her financially. And our oldest son lost his job. So we helped him cover his mortgage for a few months until he found work again. We were happy we had the means to help them, but now we're wondering if we can still retire next year.
That's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
And I feel for you. But here's the deal. It's hard to say if you can still retire, but I can tell you this. If you have a plan in place, if you sit down with somebody that can put that plan in place and say, look, here's what the plan looks like with all the different factors you have, then you'll know if you can still retire next year. If you don't have a plan, then you don't know. And so I would say your next step is to get a plan. And I would offer you our core retirement design, where we can help you design that retirement and make sure. And we'll be honest. Hey, look, you need to work 2 more years, or no, you're good. You can go ahead and pull the trigger and retire next year. That's the benefit of being able to have that plan in place. And again, that's why I developed the core retirement design, to help folks like you design the retirement they always dreamed of. And it covers a lot of different material, right? We talk about risk. We talk about taxes. Taxes are going to be a bigger deal than people realize going forward. To get started, give us a call today, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. Give us a call today.
All right, Phillip, thank you so much for all of your great insights. And thank you, listeners, for sending us your questions. If you missed out on this opportunity, it's okay. Just give us a call here at 863-877-1188. Again, that number is 863-877-1188. But hey, in case you missed anything that we discussed today or any of our previous shows, you can go ahead and check out our website and listen to all of our shows that we've discussed previously with Phillip Statler. They're all archived. All you have to do is just go to the website. And also, wherever you're listening to your podcast, you can also check out the Statler Financial Radio Show as well. So if you have questions about retirement, again, do not hesitate to call Phillip and his team at Statler Financial Services. They're here to guide you through a successful retirement. We always say you do not have to plan for your retirement alone. So do not hesitate to call 863-877-1188. Again, that number is 863-877-1188. Hey, thanks for tuning in into the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll catch you next week.
Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. This radio show is a paid placement.